All right, good morning. Thanks for joining us on the Kare 11 app on this finally Friday. I'm meteorologist Courtney Aitken alongside meteorologist Dery.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. We've got some heat on the way, but
we really do.
Today looks good.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the highlights of the forecast. So it is July. We tend to see hot weather. It's, we get these heat waves in mid-July where we see lots of days in the 90s. That's totally normal. But it's nice to see the days where we stay in the 80s with reasonable humidity, where it's not too sticky outside, it's not super dry, but it's reasonable humidity, and I think that's exactly what today has in store.
Totally. It's one of those days where the feels like temperature isn't going to be really any hotter than the actual air temperature, which late July, early August, we'll take that for sure.
Yeah, especially since, a lot of the fields are coming up with corn. We are just north of the corn belt, so all that corn emits a lot of water into the air, and especially late July, early August, it's rare to see dew points lower than 60 degrees. So it tends to be pretty muggy.
I never even thought about all that corn.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's going to happen. So we're going to be feeling that. But again, today is forecast to be a pretty decent day outside. So here's your statewide forecast. You can see mid 80s basically region wide. And it looks like the humidity, probably dew point staying in the low to mid 60s today. We are tracking a couple of stray showers across west central Minnesota. These are forecast to dissipate in what otherwise should be a mostly dry day today with, we'll call it some hazy sunshine this morning, but that should lead to a mostly sunny sky later this afternoon. The rest of your 7-day forecast. Well, there's that warming trend that we talked about, back near 90 degrees Saturday into Sunday. Lots of sunshine over the weekend. Temperatures peaking early next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday as a big ridge of high pressure moves overhead. That'll get us back into the mid 90s. And Courtney, I thought this was interesting. So the hottest we've been so far this year, that happened, I believe it was June 29th or something like that, about 2 weeks ago. We only hit 92 degrees. Mm-hmm. But that day we had the heat index rise up to, I think it was 108 at one point. You remember that day?
It was pretty rough. However, I say that, but it was the AC was pumping so the AC was working very well.
It never stops.
In this building that day. And I actually had to go and sit outside. And,
that's right.
And when John got to work that day, it was maybe around 2 o'clock, he came in and he stuck his head out the door, looked in the backyard, and he looks at me like, are you okay? And I'm like, actually, I'm thriving like a lizard or something because I was so cold in here that, you got to have the extremes.
I guess so.
But it will not, it looks like it will not be like that. So it's this interesting thing where, yes, the air temperature will be hotter. So these very well could be our hottest air temperatures, but we've dealt with worse in terms of feels like temperatures.
That's right, yeah. And you mentioned, the lizard aspect. I'll sit in the air conditioning, all day for work and then go home, hop in your car, and you'll hop in there and it's just boiling hot.
Yeah.
But it feels
good.
Kind of nice.
Yeah.
It's I'm going to wait to crack these windows. I got to bring my body temperature up a little bit from the air conditioning.
Yeah, because by the end of the day here, it's my fingers and toes
it's cold.
starting to go a little bit numb. But it's a good thing to have AC that works very well. It's a good problem to have.
So we have this big ridge of high pressure that's going to sit on top of us for most of next week. And this is a little different from the heat dome we saw, 10 days ago or so, because the storm track is going to be lifting north of us. So that'll give us more sunshine and lesser chances for rain. We have very minimal rain chances in the forecast over the next 7 days. So at least over the next week or so, the main topic is just going to be about the high heat. So let's talk about the potential impacts. This is another summer weather pattern. It's a pretty standard July heat wave with a string of 90s in the forecast. I don't see us reaching triple digits here, but parts of far western Minnesota and especially out over the Dakotas, they're probably going to see the hottest temperatures with not only air temperatures near 100, but the heat index probably close to 110 degrees. Will be mainly sunny and dry, and that just has to do with the position of that high pressure ridge. See, a couple weeks ago when it was super hot, that ridge was over the Appalachian states and the East Coast, so we were on that active storm track. This one's going to build in from the southwest and kind of sit pretty much on top of us, if not just south and west of us. So that'll give us the heat. And it'll also shove that storm track way up north. So areas in Canada will have a good chance of seeing those thunderstorms, those recurring thunderstorm days, kind of like what we saw over the 4th of July weekend.
Totally, yeah. Like right when we were, as you were saying, on the periphery of the high pressure of the heat dome, that's where you see the active weather kind of along those contour lines. But when you're right under it, you're under that dome. You think about being in a bubble almost where the rain can't get to you. That's kind of the setup that we are in. And you mentioned those really high temperatures for the Dakotas and the heat indices, definitely well into the triple digits. Those folks actually already have heat alerts, not in effect right now, but that will go into effect for the weekend and beyond. So they've already issued those in advance of the heat, and even far northwestern Minnesota has some heat alerts already. So.
Yeah, so we're getting ready for it, right? And you can kind of see the position of that high. You can think of that, that clockwise flow around that high pressure system. So the warmest air is expected over the high plain states. So like you mentioned, extreme heat watches, extreme heat warnings in place for the high plain states. And we're kind of on the edge of that super hot air. It is going to be hot,
sure, but
just not like oppressively hot. And I think a lot of that also has to do with the level of humidity out there as well. You look at the dew point trend, it's nowhere near the tropical dew points that we saw as we wrapped up the month of June, where, gosh, I remember we had a dew point of like 78, 79 degrees.
That was awful.
It was just sticky. You
That's
walked
just
outside,
gross. I mean,
and it's like immediately you needed a shower when you walked outside. So this is not that level of humidity. So we're looking at dew points that'll probably top out in the mid to upper 60s. I think there's going to be a bit of a breeze that'll help to kind of mix us out a little bit. That'll provide us with somewhat drier air as well. So not the oppressive levels of humidity that we've already dealt with this summer, but still pretty noticeable. And you're going to want to take some steps to cool off. Yeah,
that's true. I think that the good news is we're not in that zone of forecasting dangerous heat, but it's not going to be pleasant. I mean, it definitely will feel pretty steamy out. And also of note, it's not completely out of the norm to have a string of 90s in July, but our average high this time of year is 84. So we're above average getting into the weekend. Today's a pretty run-of-the-mill July day, and it'll feel nice out. But starting tomorrow, we're starting to get to that above average range, and then it's full speed ahead with the heat as we get into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and even Wednesday of next week. We stay in those 90s. So adding to the tally of 90-degree days for the year.
We ran your Weather Minds package on heat and pet health earlier this morning. So that's going to be probably a big topic once we get into the tail end of the weekend, pardon the pun, and early next week as well, where
that's a good pun.
Grassy surfaces are going to be a lot cooler versus the pavement like concrete and especially asphalt. It gets super hot right in the sun.
It does, yeah. And I those numbers that I used for that segment that I did, there's a really informative piece published, I think, by Georgia State University. So that's kind of where I got that information. I think people know generally that paved surfaces in the sun on a hot day are going to be hot and may be hazardous to your pet's paws, or even if you have a kid that's running around with no shoes on, you definitely want to keep them off of that. But just how much hotter it is kind of shocking.
Yeah.
The fact that even in the shade, the paved surface can be nearly 25 to 30 degrees hotter than the actual air temperature.
Oh, sure.
That's pretty wild, and it is something to take seriously.
And you think going on a long walk with your pup, during the peak daytime heating hours, I mean, that could seriously damage paws. I mean, we don't feel it because we have, thicker soled shoes on, but they just have their paw pads that they're walking on. So make sure to check that, especially since the sun is so high in the sky. We're not forecasting thunderstorms or a lot of cloud cover during this time, so that sun is just going to be baking things Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday as those temperatures peak out again in the mid-90s. Outside this morning, we are tracking some isolated showers that are trying to work their way into west central Minnesota. This is the remnants of some earlier thunderstorms from yesterday evening. I think there were a couple of tornadoes reported over North Dakota last night. That same cluster is trying to work its way through the western part of the state, but it's having a bit of trouble. It doesn't have a whole lot of energy to work with. Over parts of, looks like Otter Tail County, we have some spotty showers up there, north of Alexandria. You can see some high clouds that are still drifting through the Twin Cities area. That's coming from those thunderstorms that are, again, dissipating. And most of our forecast models take that little weak wave and dissipate it. So I would not anticipate to see a whole lot of rain activity today. Calling for a partly cloudy afternoon and overall pretty comfortable conditions with minimal rain chances. I don't see us seeing any significant rain chance, at least until the end of next week. So it's, I guess, enjoy the dry weather while we have it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, I mean, it's good too, because last weekend for the 4th, we did get a good amount of rain, and because of that, some of the fireworks were able to go off, but some were canceled. And so I know that they're going to reschedule, I'm pretty sure for tonight, tomorrow night, there should be, at least that's what Alicia and Cece were saying, is that some of the fireworks will be rescheduled or are planned to go off tonight, and we'll have clear skies and great weather for it.
That's right.
So that's definitely a plus. It's one of those forecasts where you're looking at the longer range and you have to actually look for the rain and think, like, is this possible? It's just not a very active stretch of weather, which, you know, that's no problem.
Can't complain.
Yeah, I can't complain. It'll be a very pleasant end to the week. Also, sunrise this morning, 5:35. Let's see, we are maybe 25, I think we're 25 days out from the sun rising after 6 o'clock in the morning. I know. And then yesterday was our last 9 o'clock sunset.
I knew you were going to say that too.
Of the season. Yeah, I'm predictable.
Well, yeah. What is it? It's a 2-week span where we see 9 p.m. or later sunsets around the Twin Cities. So, yes, it is that time of year. You probably still don't notice the daylight slipping away yet,
because it's happening so slowly. And even though, like, you know, we have our website that we look at that tells us the official sunset time is at like 8:59 or whatever, it's still light out until at least 9:15.
Yeah, 9:15, 9:30. That's why those fireworks celebrations hold off until, 10 o'clock or so. So, if you were part of those fireworks celebrations, those citywide celebrations that had their fireworks canceled, maybe they push that to this weekend, and no problems weather-wise. I don't think there'll be anything significant knocking those fireworks chances down. So those are good tonight. I know the Twins are in town for one last homestand before the All-Star break. The Angels are in town today, tomorrow, and Sunday. First pitch tonight is just after 7 o'clock. And did you know that after the game tonight, apparently there's a wrestling match?
Oh, that is tonight.
That's tonight.
I thought it was tomorrow. I completely messed up. If you were watching the stream earlier, I said it's not tonight. I'm so sorry.
They're doing a little wrestling over at Target Field, apparently right after the final out.
Nothing goes better together than baseball and wrestling.
I went to a baseball game and there was a Smash Mouth concert at the end of it. So,
you were telling me about that. See, that's pretty cool.
There's unique ways to wrap up a game. I love it when they have the fireworks celebrations as well.
Yes.
After the game. So whatever it takes to put some people in the stands. And I know the Twins' record. It has been getting better. I think they're close to 500, which was not super expected considering where we started the season. But hopefully we'll begin to turn things around once the All-Star break wraps up. So I think after this weekend, it's like 2 weeks until the next home game at Target Field.
Really? So it'll be a while. It's a great ballpark. I've been, I think, twice now, once for Twins Weather Day and then a separate time after that. And it certainly, the other time that I went, it felt like there were a lot of people there because the line to get in was so long. It took a really long time. But the food's good. It's a great ballpark. You got a great view. When the weather's nice,
well, that's the kicker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, with the season starting sometimes late March.
That's why Mace
April
is employed.
Yes, yeah. Mace, the official meteorologist for,
we love
for
Mace.
Target Field. And you'll see him on Kare 11 a couple of times as well. I think Target Field, you walk around that ballpark and like you said, there's no bad view.
There's really not.
To walk around there. And on a beautiful day like today, it should be a wonderful day for a baseball game. Let's take one last look at your 7-day forecast, which the main weather headline is the heat wave that'll be returning by the end of the weekend and especially early next week. The difference between this heat wave and the one we dealt with, 10 days, 2 weeks ago, is it won't be as humid. That means even though the air temperature is forecast to be hotter, we probably won't see the heat index value much higher than about 100 degrees Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So still pretty hot, but less noticeable. We'll start to warm up over the weekend, and looks like 90s for at least 4, maybe 5 days in a row starting on Sunday. Subtle changes in your forecast ahead. That's towards the end of next week. Hey, more news and more weather right around the corner.